Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like they got him. Now, this is preliminary. People are innocent until proven guilty, but an arrest has been made. Attempted aggravated murder, among many other charges, for a man who shot the driver of an SUV. Now, this guy has tried making some justifications for why he ran up to an SUV and shot the driver. But listen, this guy is now, I think officially confirmed, we can say, the second Black Lives Matter extremist shooter. But there have been other shootings at other riots. The reason I'm specifically mentioning just these two, the other one being Louisville, is because a lot of the shootings we saw during the riots could have been random looters, people we don't know. But I think it's fair to say, from an umbrella perspective, there have been many now Black Lives Matter identity extremists who have been shooting and injuring people. The cop who got ambushed, for instance. And we also have some news about the Boogaloo Boys. Apparently, Facebook is purging and taking down a bunch of Facebook pages pertaining to Boogaloo Boys. But here's the first thing I want to highlight. I want to read you the story and show you what's going on with this guy. He's being arrested now. Far left extremist shot the driver of an SUV. I've been talking about this quite a bit, but it looks like they may have caught the guy as well as arrested another woman. But I can't. I'm sorry, I can't help it. There is a thread on Reddit talking about the Boogaloo Boys and Civil War. And there are a lot of city people adamant that the cities will survive in the event of a full-on civil conflict. And it is shockingly insane, absolutely detached from reality. I want to show you what these people say. I want to talk about, we're seeing weird things happen. Just the rapid escalation. A lot of the things that have happened recently, I could not have predicted would happen this fast. Especially with this. Listen, I'm just going to say it. Look. You want to talk about civil war, civil unrest. The people wanted to mock me and say, Tim, you're overhyping things. You're pessimistic. Maybe. And then we keep getting more and more stories. This guy, this SUV was driving down the street and these extremists tried blocking him. They're not protesters, man. They're not protesters, okay? If you are out with a guy who just shot someone and you keep going, you are an extremist, all right? Let me start over before I get ahead of myself. You see on the screen, this SUV was driving down the street, tried to turn and get away from the crowd. They ran up to block the car. A dude took out his gun and shot the driver. What happened next, according to witnesses and police, is that people just kept doing their thing. So what does that make you? Not a protester. If you are out and somebody in your group draws a weapon and shoots on an innocent person who's driving their vehicle, and you just say, hi, oh, great, and you keep going about with that person, you're a group of violent extremists. Now, this guy apparently has Facebook posts trying to justify, but that's what we're seeing. I could not have predicted this. I thought things were going to get bad. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. Come on, I mean this quite literally. I think it's fair to say we all knew something crazy was going to happen in 2020, but this is crazier than I've ever seen it, right? We got mass bannings, Facebook now banning all these different accounts. Groups of people that are encouraging or calling for civil war. Now that's nuts. I'm telling you, man, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Look, a lot of these people, left, right, up, down, I don't care what your position is. If you think you want this, you are wrong. And I encourage you to actually experience the world. What we do need is law and order. And maybe it's just wishful thinking, but a return to normalcy, real debate, rigorous debate, conversations, reform. Instead, you've got so many people who just want to take it to the extreme end. And I feel like we fell off the cliff, right? I've been saying for a while that we are on the edge. We're on the precipice. We are facing, looking down towards oblivion. Maybe we fell off the cliff. And that's something I've said in the past. And the reason why all this is happening so fast is that we're no longer rolling downhill. We just went boom, straight off the edge. And so now we're at terminal velocity. Could not be faster. So here's the story. And then let's talk about the sheer absurdity these city folks seem to think. The cities, get out of the cities, man. Let me just tell you right now, get out of the cities. I'll leave it at that. We'll read the stories. Let's just read this news first. Fox 13 Salt Lake City says a man has been arrested in connection with a shooting during a protest Monday night in Provo. According to Provo police, 33-year-old Jesse Taggart of Salt Lake City was arrested on charges of attempted aggravated murder, aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury, rioting, threatening use of a weapon in a fight or quarrel, criminal mischief, and firing a weapon near a highway. Police say Taggart shot the driver of an SUV on University Avenue as protesters crowded around the vehicle. The driver sustained a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. Taggart reportedly then fired another shot at the rear of the vehicle as it sped away from the scene. In addition, 27-year-old Samantha Darling of Ogden was arrested for obstruction of justice and rioting. Details on her role in the incident were not released. Police are still investigating Monday night's events and have asked anyone with information on individuals who damaged vehicles to contact Detective Nick Patterson. Innocent until proven guilty, I think it's fair to say. But according to Far Left Watch, this protest was organized on Facebook. Now, the reason why this is significant is that Facebook is now going to be meeting with a bunch of big nonprofits and activist groups to ban hate speech. Facebook has in the past banned right-wing extremist groups. What about this? Will they now ban all far left, Black Lives Matter, defund the police, or organizations or event plannings? Probably not. And that's where things spiral out of control. You've got a tacit approval from these big tech platforms. They're not going to take this down. The Provo protest that resulted in a shooting was organized on Facebook by Antifa. There it is. End police brutality, pro-blue counter protest. I don't know what this means. Oh, I think this may be the other event. They say far left extremists who have been ripping people from their cars and assaulting them have now escalated to shooting drivers. It is not a protest. It is an insurgency. So there was supposedly some counter protest. I don't know if this is what is this? Let me read it. Sometimes you have to pick up a gun to put the gun down. This is Malcolm X quote that the Salt Lake City Antifa Coalition included in their Facebook event for a protest at the Provo Police Department on June 29th. Additionally, they instructed the participants to wear all black, wear masks, and wear protective eye gear. Okay, I think they were coming to counter-protest pro-police individuals or whatever. I'm not 100% sure, but check this out. This is one of the big developments on social media. Facebook bans hundreds of profiles trying to incite Second Civil War in the U.S. Participants in the Boogaloo movement have been tied to several violent attacks over the past few months in the U.S. Yes, but I don't believe it's contextually accurate to say they're trying to incite Second Civil War. I would say there's a lot of groups that use Boogaloo memes that just believe it's happening no matter what. These are just people who think it's going to happen. There are some people who want it to happen for sure, but that includes the left. And this is where things get murky. Some of these Boogaloo, there's a guy who's arrested for shooting 2 cops, I believe, killing one of them. And he wrote Boog in blood or something. They say this guy was a right-wing extremist. But let's break it down for a second. Wants civil war, hates cops. Who does that overlap with? Not conservatives and the right. It overlaps with Antifa and the far left. You can argue they're, I don't know what you call them, man. I really don't. But if the Antifa people absolutely want conflict with government, and the Boogaloo, a lot of these Boogaloo boys or whatever you want to call them, have been down supporting many of these protests. So I don't think it's fair to call them right wing or whatever. And they're not necessarily doing it, but a lot of people are. I don't know how to explain who these people are other than anti-government. Black Lives Matter protest is anti-government too, right? Well, there you go. So it looks like you've got, I don't know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing going on. Let's read this and see what's happening. And then I want to show you some of the reactions from people who seem to think that they have, it is mind-numbing how stupid and arrogant these people are. And I'm going to tear into them. Sky News says, Facebook has banned 315 accounts, which it said belong to Boogaloos, participants in an extremist movement in the U.S. which believes a second civil war is inevitable or desirable. At least 10 individuals affiliated with the movement have been accused of serious crimes in the past year. They include a U.S. Air Force sergeant who is charged with murdering a police officer in California using the George Floyd protests as cover. Facebook said, the acts of real-world violence and our investigations into them are what led us to identify and designate this distinct network within the general movement. Okay, great. Okay, let's stop. What about Antifa? You going to ban Antifa now? What about the fact that this guy who shot the driver or the dude in Louisville who fired into a crowd killing a photographer were Black Lives Matter activists? You see how they run protection. They will not. Here's what they'll say. Well, in that particular instance, those people were outliers. What about these? You had a small handful of incidents with crazy people, and now you want to call them outliers? Or you want to ban the whole movement? They targeted this network. Okay, target the network of Antifa. They won't. And that's why things will get worse, because Facebook will not do it. They say the name comes from break into Electric Boogaloo. We get it. In the case of the Boogaloo movement, the event is an American Civil War. Participants have been present at multiple demonstrations for George Floyd. The use of memes and the adoption of the Hawaiian floral print shirt is a tactic used by the far right to attract and recruit young men, according to analysts who study extremist movements. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's a meme. It's amorphous. It's just something that people find funny, and they do. This is what they don't, man. It's really hard to break these things down and try and explain to people when their mind is wrapped up in this ridiculous fake academic view of what's really going on. Why did people wave a certain flag, like, the Pakistani flag or whatever? It's just a meme. It's just a meme. It is a symbol of tribe. That's the best way to put it. Why do these people have unicorns with guns or a Cookie Monster or floral shirts? They're just memes. It's literally someone did something, someone else thought it was funny and did it too, and then they put it on because it's a tribal signifier. That's it. You go to an event, you see someone with the flag, and you're like, oh, it's like an igloo or something on a flag. I don't know, something like that. Facebook said the network it prescribed was actively promoting violence. That's crazy, man. That's nuts. I guess that'll be their excuse. Like, well, although there have been armed extremists who show up to these events and beat people and destroy property and have now been shooting at people, and in one instance killing somebody, they aren't calling for it. Yeah, this is another big issue that is actually arguably a good thing. The disorganization of the right. Right-wing groups do not have the same organizational capacity as left-wing groups in many ways, right? Of course, there are certain right-wing militias that are very, very organized, but they're not insurrectionists for the most part. When it comes to activism and extremism and riots, the left has been active in organizing for a long time. They have very, very clever tactics. One of the reasons you don't hear a lot about their extremism is they purposefully try to blunt their attacks so they can create death by 1,000 cuts. It's kind of like if you have one moment of extreme terror, everybody hears about it and freaks out and overreacts. That's bad for whatever movement is engaging in it because the system becomes reactive to you and shores up its defenses. What Antifa does is more akin to death by 1,000 cuts. The first blunt bludgeoning is not that shocking, so no one talks about it, and no defenses are developed. So over time, you have the slow growth of the far left until they have critical mass, and then they unleash not a single slice, but 1,000 cuts to take the system down in a way that people won't realize it. So, look, I think we get the point of this. They said Facebook removed 315 accounts. They were actively promoting this, whatever. They said the company added it had previously removed over 800 posts linked to the Boogaloo movement, which is called for violence. So long as violent movements operate in the physical world, they will seek to exploit digital platforms, stated the company, which is currently facing a boycott from advertisers who allege it is profiting by allowing such hate groups on its platforms. Yeah, like Antifa. But here we go, baby. First, violence, wrong, in my opinion, 100%. We want to strive for a society of nonviolence. They'll lie to you and tell you that violent actions are the only way. That's not true. Peaceful protest works. And that's why we are facing fourth generational warfare. There is no better example or exemplification of violence failing than fourth generational warfare. Fourth and fifth generational warfare, as it's described, is basically like subverting the hearts and minds and using amorphous and unnamed groups, right? So in fourth generational warfare, you don't want an easily identifiable group. So you have Antifa. Antifa is not a thing, they say. It's subgroups that operate, through cells to push their ideology. When you get into, when fourth and fifth starts blending, it's informational warfare. And the point is, you actually lose support when violence erupts because regular people get scared by it. They aim to win. Let me just make it much more simple. Back in the day, in order to seize territory and control of resources, you had to take it by force. You'd walk up, people would be like, no, live free or die or whatever. So then you'd get into a fight and subdue your rivals. Today, you can get a group of people to hand over all their resources by just convincing them to do it through mass communications. One of the tactics is making your opponent look like evil, violent thugs or whatever. And so regular people get scared and then beg for help. This is one of the things I've pointed out about my jokingly saying the Democrats want Trump to win or Antifa is helping Trump, in that the more Antifa does these things and commits violence and looting and, whatever, the more people will run to Trump because violence doesn't work. It's good for Donald Trump and the Republicans that Antifa acts a fool. It's bad. Well, I would say it's bad for Republicans or whatever, but the Boogaloo movement isn't right wing. So it doesn't really reflect on conservatives, especially when they say law and order, lock these people up too. In fact, Bill Barr's task force announced they would go after Boogaloo boys, same as Antifa. So in the end, the more people get violent, the more it hurts their own cause and bolsters the other side. And that may be the big advantage of conservatives come November. But I want to jump over to Reddit because I saw this on r/news. Facebook bans hundreds of profiles trying to incite a second civil war. And I thought their comments were quite hilarious. How many of those accounts were Russian trolls and how many were their alt-right allies? It's getting difficult to tell the difference betwixt the two anymore. These people are very dumb. First of all, I'll address that first comment. The Boogaloo people were supporting the George Floyd protests, you daft moron. Okay? So no, not alt-right. Here's the next one. The Civil War was started by the moneyed classes looking to preserve the slavery their wealth was based on. Without an S-ton of money, you ain't getting a war. That's just wrong. Once again, I've said this over and over again. People's view of Civil War is so hyper-focused on American history, they've never looked at other countries. Spain. Seriously, go look at the Spanish Civil War, man. I've watched many a documentary talking about it and read many articles. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but that's more akin to what we're seeing, to say the least. You're never going to see a one-for-one comparison. Technology changes, ideologies change, tactics change, warfare evolves into different generations. But people in America view the American Civil War as what Civil War is. And so they're like, I don't think there could be a Civil War because we wouldn't have any states fighting each other. And it's like, that has nothing to do with it. Go read history. They don't, but they sure do know. I'll tell you this, I don't know. I've read a ton, and I will tell you I am very full of doubt. But I see certain signs that I find interesting. Here's the next one. Now, this one I think might actually be a little bit apt. For everyone poo-pooing the idea of widespread violence in the near future, I don't think you understand just how angry and primed people are leading up to these elections. When the claims of cheating, interference, and rigging start coming out, as both likely presidential candidates have already claimed the other side is going to do, I don't believe it will be outside the realm of possibility that there will be a wave of protesting, rioting, and violence across the country as things get chaotic in the wake of the November elections. The news agencies will spin it into furor, and no one is going to have a clear picture of what is truly going on, and people are liable to just react and lash out blindly. Completely agree. Very, very astute comment. I think they nail it. Both sides will accuse each other of cheating, and then chaos. Complete chaos. See, what you got to understand about the Boogaloo people is that they think it's inevitable. They're not saying, not every single one of these people on Facebook is saying they want it to happen. Many are, but many of them just believe it'll happen no matter what. And now you're seeing calls from people to accelerate things. Man, have we gone off the cliff? Are we just approaching terminal velocity? I hope not, but I fear we are. Now listen, the Boogaloo thing is one of the stupidest things ever. You mean to tell me that these leftists also don't believe there's a civil war coming? They're literally calling it a revolution. There's not one specific far right group saying this. Everybody in the political space has been saying it. Even comedians like Bill Maher has been saying it. So what do you think when you get all of these people, professors, comedians, activists, regular people on the left and the right, all saying they think something inevitable is coming? What do you expect, man? Now, I love this. Here we go. This one says, as a nation, we'll never be considered better than the worst of us. It's time to clean up house on these violent bigots. You're either for America or you'll be labeled a danger to it. These people are just so dumb. They don't read. They have no idea what they're talking about, but they love to speak up. And that's fine. That is America, right? Go for it. But let me tell you, Donald Trump is the duly elected president. He has been facing accusations of cheating, of foreign collusion from the Democrats the entire time he's been president. They went through 3 years of investigating whether or not he was a secret agent of Russia. They have been claiming outright Trump is not America. And meanwhile, on the other side, Trump is claiming Obamagate. Obama spied, Obama cheated, subverted the election. It doesn't matter where you fall. What matters is that both sides at the highest levels of government are accusing the other side of subverting America, of treason. Now, of course, the Democrats are a bit more muffled in this, like Obama and stuff. Now, the high-profile Democrats and intelligence officials have accused Trump of the worst of the worst. Trump has outright said over and over again, like treason and stuff like that, and like criminal, and we'll see how that plays out. Here's one. Why don't we just cut the coastal cities off and let the red states do whatever they want? I'm sure they will be very successful. /S. Sarcasm. Why just the coastal cities? In almost every state, the big cities subsidize the rural areas, who have their hands out while complaining about the big cities. Very, very amazing. And they go on to basically talk about most of these farms are actually just exporting food, and the big cities are importing their food. We don't need the red states. Okay. I tell you what, man, these people really don't understand anything about their country. It would take only a small handful of people to shut down interstate highways to end the truck routes. A small handful. You need law enforcement agencies to maintain this, to maintain law and order. But I tell you, if you've never driven across the country, you realize large stretches of our country are just it's a 2-lane highway on both sides. So you got 2 lanes going one way to the other with passing lane and, you know, your right lane or whatever. How easy would it be for just one person to shut down 1 lane, 2 people to shut down? It's extremely, extremely dangerous. Okay. Now, these people who live in cities seem to think that cramming maximum population density, like 30,000 people per square mile, some ridiculous amount of people, they seem to think that they can bring in enough food and water for all of these people if they cut the cities off. Somebody made a really funny comment. This is always such an S take, for some reason, gets upvoted on this website. If you truly think that big cities could last in this country without the rural areas, well, you are sadly mistaken. Let's see how New York City does when they have no water because the bulk of their water comes from 100 miles north of the city, or how the big cities do without the farming that occurs in the rural areas. Anyone that actually thinks these big cities could last with the rest of the country are hilariously misguided. This person says, the NYPD has about 35,000 uniformed officers with all the necessary equipment to come and take what they need. No, they don't, you morons. They really don't get it. The NYPD can't deal with a bunch of young people linking arms in a park. 35,000 includes support staff who are like middle-aged women filing paperwork and stapling papers together. They're not talking about every single officer on the ground. Now, I could be wrong about that. Fine. I think my numbers may be off, but not every single uniformed officer is going to be capable of waging warfare. That morbidly obese 60-year-old guy sitting in an office who is a uniformed officer is not going to be rushing up to the water main to stop an armed insurgency. These are the real risks we face and why no one should be talking about how they, you know what, man, this is what makes me angry. These people posting on this, they're complaining about the Boogaloo Boys, right? These people are saying, oh, these people, they hate America. We should do something about them. What does he say? This person literally posts, cut off the coastal cities and the red states can do what they want. Do you understand what you are saying? You're being sarcastic because they won't survive. You are saying the same things as the people you're complaining about. That's what they don't understand. That's what makes me scared the most. We do not want that. You do not want this. Nobody should want this. We should want to be able to live peacefully, have conversations, and hope law and order prevails, to be 100%. But when you have a post about Facebook removing the Boogaloo Boys because they're calling for violence or something, and the response is to actually accelerate, they don't realize it. And this is why it keeps happening. Why just the coastal cities? Every city, every state, blah, blah, blah. They're jokes. The comments. Just cut them off, they say. It's the same thing being said by the people you're complaining about. So when both sides are like, oh man, these people are so crazy, why don't we just cut them off and let them go do their thing? What do you think? Oh man, we're in trouble, man. I'm not confident. I was reading an article that said, beware of the 4th of July, and that's scary. You've got the mayor of DC saying, stay home. You know, Trump's doing his rally, and now you've actually got The Intercept, like a lefty publication, calling it racist, calling the 4th of July racist. You got the Democrats literally tweeted it out. There is no cohesive worldview on what's happening anymore. And even among the tribal factions, no one really knows for sure. So I can only tell you this, man, get out of the cities and don't engage in this stuff. Don't joke about it. It's not funny. It's not funny to say, cut these people off. I will call these people for being dumb because that's exactly what they are. They think it's silly to say and actually engage in, I'm just going to leave it there, man. Hopefully all this is just extreme election year. Hopefully after whoever wins the president, everybody shuts up and calms down and things get better. But I'm not confident, man. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at timcast.net, and I will see you all then.